Montgomery-Favors with New Detroit. We are so excited to be a part of this year's 2021 Concert of Colors with an event we're calling R.I.C.E. Racial Inclusive Conversations from Your Environment. We are kicking things off at Yum Village with Chef Godwin, with our fantastic moderator, Eric Thomas, who is the chief storyteller with the City of Detroit. Come on, join us.
What's going on? I'm Eric Thomas with R.I.C.E. We are exploring culture, identity, race through food, right? Understanding different people and understanding where they come from through something that brings us all together, food. And food is so communal. And the reason why we think about rice is because rice is really found in many cultures all over the world, from Africa to Asia to America to the deep south to up north. We find ourselves creating meals out of rice. It's such a stretch meal, something that makes all of our meals complete. Me, myself, I'm a rice fiend. I like rice from every single culture. And so we get this incredible opportunity to sit down with Godwin and learn about this kind of African, Caribbean inspired eats. And so this is what we plan to do. And throughout it all, we're going to be exploring ourselves and culture and how we find ourselves in food.
So, Chef Godwin here with Afro-Caribbean Eats Yum Village. One of the reasons why I love rice so much is because it's the great unifier. When we had the slaves kind of go through the transatlantic slave route, the Portuguese set up, I would say, trade routes right along the coast. And because of that, we were able to see a lot of these different types of rices get brought overseas. You see them in South America, you see them in the United States, and as you said, all over the world. And I look at rice as the great unifier. So today I'm going to be talking about the almighty jollof rice. One, because most rices can be traced to the jollof, and then two, because this is one of the most tried and true replicated recipes out there. I think it was back in 2014, there was a gentleman named Jamie Oliver, and some people will say Nigerian jollof rice is the best or Ghanaian jollof rice is the best. Look up hashtag jollof rice wars. There's probably a big time debate in which people from West Africa will fight you tooth and nail to the death on who has the best rice. But when Jamie Oliver did an untraditional jollof rice where he used grape tomatoes and coriander, it was probably one of the first times where the Ghanaians and the Nigerians united together and were like, this is blasphemy, off with his head. This ain't real jollof rice. What are you talking about? I saw the video myself. I got out of my seat. I'm like, what's happening? So because of that, I just love jollof rice so much. And jollof rice, in essence, is a one-pot style rice. It's cooked usually with tomato paste, garlic, and onion. And the premise is these items are reduced down within the pot, and then you have the water and the rice. It all cooks together, and you get this beautiful, very dynamic, multi-layered rice, orangish red in color. It has almost like a smokiness in it, and it holds true. When I eat jollof rice, I think of all the times when I was a young boy. My mom and dad would take me to the Nigerian foundations here in Detroit, Michigan, which are still very much active right now, and we would do our thing. When we sell jollof rice here at Yum Village, the main premise behind it is to open up the dialogue around culture and heritage that's important to us. This city is over 80% black, and I would even go so far as to say we're contributing to black history each and every day that people from the city get to eat something that is very much tied in with their heritage. I say that because just of how close West Africa is to what was going on when slavery was a thing back in the 1800s and such, all the way up, most people who are from America or just around have some type of a lineage tied in with West Africa. 1 in 5 people from the continent of Africa has some aspect of Nigerian heritage within their DNA. So again, when we serve jollof rice here, we are definitely contributing to some aspects of Black history as well as opening up the dialogue across the diaspora. Young Village isn't just about African Caribbean food, it's also about spreading the diaspora culture, making people more aware of what the diaspora is, and having a community center and space that allows for those types of conversations to take place. So no more Jamie Oliver's making jollof rice.
All right, so now we've got some personal history. Now we've got all of this incredible food in front of us. So we're gonna dig into some rice and some rice. We're gonna dig into some stuff that's hard, and we're gonna do it over some stuff that is delicious. So let's get into it.
Awesome. I'm not sure where to start. I'm just gonna get this piece of chicken.
I'm gonna go back to this rice.
Is that what we're doing here? So we're gonna go reach and grab
Just
stuff.
to reach and grab
While I'm
stuff.
grabbing stuff, you guys have to
Yes.
explain to me because there's a lot of stuff here that I personally haven't had.
Well, this is that almighty jollof right here.
Right, so I gotta have some of the almighty.
Gotta have that.
I am a giant fan of turmeric rice, so I know that's
I'll
gonna
pass
be
that
great.
to
I
me.
have not had the hibiscus,
Oh yeah, gotta try that too.
so I gotta have that. This is your personal favorite
gotta try
here,
that.
right?
I got you.
So he's gonna make sure that I have the.
Make sure you
jollof.
get that
He's gonna-
plantain
He's
up
gonna
over
convert me to Nigerian.
You know,
No, he's gonna get a heavy. I haven't had jollof before, but I've got a lot of Nigerian friends. So, and Ghanaian friends, which means they're slipping. So now, Godwin's gonna try and get me on the team
Yes. Yes.
early.
yeah, no, you know what it is. Traditionally, too, you always want to get a little bit of plantain. That's a great and excellent side dish to go with jollof
Get some of
rice.
this.
Okay, so we're getting plantain.
John.
Yeah, and plantain, I think that most people would just call it a giant banana. Scientifically,
Mix my rice.
plantain is an excellent source of protein or potassium, whereas the banana is a good source of potassium. The plantain is an excellent source of iron.
They also do plantain sandwiches here. I have never had that before until I ate here. So yeah.
You got to keep it vegan.
So is plantain banana or is that something else?
It's in the family of banana, like a banana cousin.
It's a
The cousin of the banana. Okay.
It's
Third
a-
cousin or second cousin?
Probably be like second.
Okay, so I am now eating this jollof. So one thing that I've learned about God is everything he makes is gonna be spicy as hell. That's the scientific term for it.
Need water.
You're right. You're gonna need water for this meal. I like food that hurts me. And so
Explain that one.
I'm in a dangerous relationship with food. If it gets spicy enough to hurt me, then I know that I'm in there. This jollof is incredible. So now I've been converted. You hear that, Gordon? Right now, Nigerian jollof is in the lead. What other type of jollof is there?
Well, so just about every country on the continent has their version of jollof in some way. And they're all cooked differently. Like some people use vegetables, so you can get tomatoes, peas, and carrots inside the jollof, which is good, but I think that's to like take away from how it's not better than just jollof by itself. I'm just joking. Different countries do different things with their jollof rice. Sierra Leone also one of the folks that use like vegetables in with their jollof. Kind of typically does just a straight jollof with tomato. They don't add any extra vegetables in it, but just about every country has their version. Even Senegal has an aspect of jollof that's cooked one pot style, and it's also the national dish. It's called chubby chop, and it's traditionally some jollof rice or like stew rice, if you will, how they reference it, with fish. Straight up fish, prepared with a giant carrot, some onions, maybe a potato, and then the jollof underneath. But their entirety of that centerpiece isn't the jollof by itself; it's the fish with the jollof together.
So we've been joking a little bit about kind of like the minor food wars going on around here. But the thing about culture that is interesting is that it can become really ingrained as you grow up with certain belief systems, certain ideologies, certain flavor palettes. Sometimes it makes it easy to almost outright reject somebody who's doing something different with something that you know and that you appreciate. And so as we dive into stuff that's more about how culture can collide and how race can collide, growing up in a city like Detroit, the city has been predominantly a majority black for a very long time. And I always said I had this feeling of kind of being safe to feel black in this city. When I left Detroit, it got kind of weird, right? It was kind of like, oh, am I not supposed to be here? And that was kind of like a cultural collision. Can you remember the first time that you ran into that kind of collision where you became aware of yourself maybe as different?
Mm-hmm. I was, we weren't native Detroiters. My father moved here from Buffalo, New York, with all of us as a family when I was 5 years old to work on Marvin, the state of Michigan. So when I was broken without a job, it was definitely an ironic happening when I had to use Marvin. I'm like, my dad made this, but before we came to Detroit, I think I was still 5, and I was raised to be honest, do good, do right. And when I was in a toy store, I remember seeing all of these toys. They were all like out of the container, and so I think somebody was messing with them. And so, being the do-gooder that I was, I took it upon myself to gather all of these toys and put them in the cart so I can take them up to the front. And as I was almost finished, I'm getting everything together, I see a guy who's like a security guard or whatever he was, I'm not sure. I waved him over and I was like, hey, somebody was trying to steal these toys, or somebody was trying to do something with these toys. And he was like, exactly, you are. And I was like, no, I'm just trying to help out. He was like, nope, you're trying to take toys. And so he took me away and had me sit in like where I guess they put people who steal stuff. So, and I'm like 5, I don't know what's happening. My mom had to come in and get me. But when I came to Detroit, I didn't necessarily have that. Like I was afraid to come to Detroit, admittedly, because they had to build a robot to protect the city. But like, I didn't have like that feeling. I was like, I'm home. There's a lot of people who look like me on the playground. Whereas when I was coming from Buffalo, New York, I'm getting accused of stealing when I'm trying to help. So this was definitely a homey city for me.
Say that for me, there are a lot of things that I have discovered in my life, which is when you grow up around a lot of people who are homogenous, right? Detroit does have a lot of black people. Then you almost forget that there's also layers and depths and complexity of black people too, right? Like we're not like we're not like a black thing. Like you're Nigerian, right? I grew up with a lot of people who I found out later were African because I thought they were just local black like me, So did you ever? I feel like you're a little bit older than I am, right? I'm 33.
Yeah.
So you may have experienced blackness differently, kind of growing up versus now.
For me, I think I had some interesting experiences as a younger person. As I've gotten older, the more you level up, the more business you do. Because I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole adult life. So the more rooms you get in, the different people you come across, the different feelings you get, the different levels of what you can consider. And I'm just gonna say some you consider racism. Like I'm in different rooms. As you get older, as you elevate whatever it is you're doing in life, I've experienced some different things over time. So
a lot of the businesses and brands that you seem to run are focused predominantly and specifically on the black experience. It seems like. Is there a reason for that? Right, you got black film, you got black art, you got black clothing. Why?
What's
that
with the black? What's with all this black stuff?
What's with all this black stuff?
Why
bro?
not? But see, I feel like this. Why not? I'm black. I represent a certain culture. I represent a certain community. I live that life. I'm very intentional about how I feel, and who I do business with, and how I do business. I'm all about elevating us. It's about activating this thing that we've always had. It's about not accepting the narrative that they put in place for what they want us to believe, for what they want us to think, how they want us to move. I move like I need to move, and I move according to how I feel about it. I think for me, my whole intention is to build a structure of belief. Like I believe and who we are and what we can accomplish every day without fear. Like that's just how I roll. I'm all black, everything. I am. But that doesn't mean I don't do business with other cultures. That doesn't mean I don't want to learn or participate in certain things. But I participate and at my own will and because I want to, not because I have to.
Sliding over here to Godwin as someone who came into Detroit. So I've been in Detroit my whole life. Have you been in Detroit?
My whole life.
Whole life. You came into Detroit and you kind of lived bordered to Detroit. And the other thing about this area is there is a lot of almost focused racial homogeneity, right? If you go to Hamtramck, you have a particular population. If you go to Southwest Detroit, you have a particular population. The broad spectrum of Detroit, you know, has a black population. You go to Dearborn, you got a particular one. It's almost like we have all of these different cultures, but they do not mesh. Right? Do you, Godwin, are you, especially as someone who's doing fusion meals and bringing different people together, are you seeing people come together who are different over this kind of fusion meal type?
100%. You know, it's interesting you said that because I had a young lady. I had this very same conversation with me yesterday. She made the comment. I'm not gonna try to do her voice. You know, I'm a horrible voice actor. You know, but she goes, you know what? I gotta tell you, you know, being a black-owned business, you have so many different types of races coming here. You got Middle Easterns, you got Asians, you got Indians, Mexicans, black people, white people, everyone coming here for this food. And I was like, that's what's up. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. But she was correct. We do have a lot of unity over food, and I stand by it. You could have somebody who doesn't speak a lick of English come and sit next to somebody who does, and those two will be able to communicate with each other, at least over what they're eating, you know, whether it's like, this is good, you know, whatever. Like the ability to connect over food is endless and awe-inspiring.
When you talk about a dish like the turmeric rice, which is inspired by cultural trade, spice of trade, it's not from any one place, it's just inspired by a relationship between two. All right, so getting into the fun stuff. So this has been a really interesting time in America for race relations, especially around black people, people of color, really everywhere. You know, Stop Asian Hate, George Floyd, and all these sorts of things. Now, I do think it's a weird position to say that America has never been more divided when there was a time in America where we used to own people. And by people, I mean us people. But America does feel incredibly divided right now. People are losing friends, family members, over what some people are calling our political beliefs. But what annoys me about the term political beliefs is you thinking I don't have a right to exist or that my rights are merited a political difference or a moral difference? As we've kind of gone through this last year dealing with a pandemic and riots and protests, we call them uprisings here because I think they're for good reasons. That's going to get me in trouble being a city employee, but I think people fight when they're not heard, right? Riot is the voice of the unheard. If you would have listened before we start throwing bricks, then maybe we wouldn't be throwing bricks, right? How did you feel around experiencing, and I'm going to start here in the middle, right? Because more life experience, right? And I think maybe we could also compare it to Rodney King. How did you feel seeing George Floyd death and then the subsequent riots coming from that place?
You know, to be honest with you, it was kind of like a bitter feeling because that stuff happens all the time. You know, like when we talk about racial issues within America, we talk about aspects of privilege and true definition of what that means. More times than not, I don't even have. I mean, if you took every single black person in America and counted on all 10 of their fingers and their toes, racial atrocities, we wouldn't have enough appendages to do it. You know, there's just so many, right? And so when I see that video and then I have my reactions of bitterness and all of that. It just hurt even more to know that some people were justifying it. You know, like, why is it that whenever something happens to somebody of color, that we all gotta all of a sudden find out, oh, he was stealing cigarettes, or oh, he was like a dealer or something. Or like,
We find reasons for why they were murdered.
right? You know, like, where do they do that at? I don't see that happening with any other race outside of our own. You know, oh, he was. This is why it happened to him. You know, not discounting that he was murdered right in front of our eyes, and we all got to see the videotape. And like, you know, you used to have to go on Snuff TV or something like that. You had to search that stuff out. It was a black market kind of thing to watch videos like that. And then front and center stage, we see that right on TV for everybody, and we're just supposed to be cool with that and accept it.
Is when things like that happen, right? Do you feel compelled personally to have to say something?
Of course, yeah.
Do you feel like it impacts your business? Do you feel like it impacts your relationships? Or does that kind of thing matter when confronted with, because here's where we can really get into the hard stuff. There are levels to aggression, right? Somebody could say something at dinner that feels a little racist and weird, or somebody could do something that's overt.
Yes.
When do you feel like it's your time to be like, at which level is it? I don't know about that one, dog.
I think every level. I think
Yes.
stop letting it slide off the top. Like, first time it happened, yo, check that in. Like, oh, yo, I don't appreciate what you just said. I don't appreciate that kind of tone. I don't appreciate that kind of talk. That is borderline racism, or that is racism, and we need to discuss that right now. Don't wait till something like George Floyd happens to want to bring it to a table of conversation. Like, yo, we should do something about it. You should have done something about that 100 years ago. Right? You should have done something about that before New Detroit was even created. You should have done something about that a long time ago. But because that hadn't happened, because what I consider 15 minutes of fame of the marching and all of that kind of thing that we've done, yes, a lot of things came out of those things, a lot of those situations, but look at where we are. It's just a new thing. It's just a new way of doing it. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't ceased. It's like anything else. It's like the flu. The flu can lay dormant in your body for years, and then decide to say, you know what? Let me tear a hole in you. That's just a fact.
It's built. It's funny too, because like, you know, race is kind of a created thing, it's like a social construct, and like when you think about humanity and human beings, the sapien wants to connect. You know, like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the top 2-3 things that you need to have some form of community or some form of connection. This is why I always like find it funny that, like, you know, I would not consider myself a celebrity, but you know, people know me for the most part here in the city, and the ones who don't, I still get it. Like, I get in the elevator and, you know, somebody clutches their purse or, you know, whatever. Like, you know, I don't like, I have to say something about that, you know. But at the same time, like, I'm 36. I have a clean record. I don't have nothing on my record. I've been in cuffs. I've been behind bars. I've been arrested over 35 times. You know, this is a fact. You know, and so when you can count more times than you've been alive, how many incidents you've had,
years, right?
You know,
right.
as it relates to racial incidents. Like, even in Central Michigan, I think I was pulled over, arrested 4 times in one day. You know, I had a flat tire.
You get out, get back in. Get out, get back in. Pull you over, come in. Same
Right.
guy.
But so as a restaurateur who has clientele from all over the place, and do you ever fear that being vocal about it is going to impact your business? And here's another side thing: your customers are not all black people. Do you find yourself jumping into issues of the famine in Yemen, or and people talking down Arab folks and Muslim folks? Where do we start to draw our lines of the racial disparity that we jump into, or how do we learn about that?
You know what? I think the best thing is to utilize the aspects of conversation. We all want to connect. We should all use our platforms to discuss these things. And you know, I'm glad you brought that up. Being a business owner and having a large group of clientele, it is something that I've often thought about. You know, but I feel I'm pretty intentional about my decisions to spotlight and promote Black business, Black culture, and Black community. And I'm not saying, I'm against Black people. I've got a partner in life who's not Black, but I think it's very important to understand what privilege really is and the definition of what privilege really is, and also highlight these aspects of race that we don't get to talk about.
Say that like solving racism is white people's job, right? It's like because it's on like it happened to us. Like it's privilege's job to dismantle privilege, from men to white folks to straight folks, etc. Are there things that you feel like you're doing daily to dismantle systems of oppression? Or are you like, that's not my job? Like where do you land in that? Because you talked about whose place it is to do what.
Treat everyone with respect, treat people how I want to be treated. That's just how I was raised, treat everyone that way. I don't go out and carry a sign every day, but I'm doing what I can right now, at least I'm being the change that I want, I'm just treating people how they want to be treated, or how I want to be treated,
What are my next steps from both of you? I'm really interested in this. What do I do from here for?
I think the first step is understanding education. Basically, people we need to read more. We need to understand the history of why we are within the situations that we're in, and then from there, not go back. Let's not read. Like people say, history repeats itself. Let's not repeat that history. Let's create our own history as it relates to equality and efficacy and financial literacy amongst all of the groups of people that are on this planet. One of the things and one of the real reasons why I think Dr. Martin Luther King was executed was because he was threading those lines into creating more of a unification platform that was centered around us overcoming these wealth gaps and also going beyond the aspects of systematic racism as that relates and entails. So first steps is reading, second steps is getting involved in your community, and third steps is to not buy in and not directly dive into stereotypes. If you have a stereotypical viewpoint, the best thing you could do is educate yourself on where that stereotype came from and understand that it's not the status quo. It's not fair to put a generalization out there based off of something that you don't know about. Educate yourself. I think that's the biggest step.
All right, well, you have a hat and a shirt on that says every day. And pants, probably.
Yeah, that's a fact.
What should people be doing every day? Right? We're in the big picture. He's like, we should change reality and everybody should like each other. And she's like, everybody's a nice person. We're going to treat everybody like a nice person. Well, between here and utopia, what am I doing every day?
I believe every day we should, as he said, read more every day, seek more knowledge every day, and try to change. You only can change you first, right? If you're not willing to change yourself, there's nothing you can do for anybody else. You have to be the change. You have to be a person like, you know what, I'm going to do different and then do different. Or I'm going to think different every day and then think different. Because that's the only way. If I'm a person who feels like, you know what, I do not like white people. And then tomorrow I say to myself, I'm gonna stop thinking that way. That's my job. My job is to convince me to be different. My job is to convince me first. I have to do it first for me. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stop being a racist today, and then start that work the next day.
You heard him, everybody. Stop being a racist today, every day. What I would say that I like to do is I like to fight tyranny in public, right? As we have conversations like this, I like to do them as publicly, as loudly as possible, and as communally as possible, with as much family and as many people that we want to become family as possible. That's why I think these conversations, especially over food, are so good and so important. I hope when you are at the dinner table with someone who may not quite understand, you take that moment to have a real conversation that moves them towards equity, that moves them towards parity, that moves them towards a place where they are more understanding. And that's why I'm happy that you were able to join us. I'm happy that we've come with our guests, our incredible chef, our incredible food. I hope the next time you have rice, you think maybe we want to make the world a little bit better and a little bit more racially just.
Thank you for joining us for this important conversation on race called R.I.C.E, Racially Inclusive Conversations from Your Environment. We want you to visit New Detroit at newdetroit.org to find out more about our conversations on race and other programming that we have going on. I want to thank Chef Godwin at Young Village and want all of you to enjoy the rest of the Concert of Colors 2021. We will see you next year.
We rolling?
Are we ready? Oh, I had a moment.
Come on, one more flow. I need it.
Oh, we need a flow?
Yeah.
Ready, G?
More blackity blackness.